Hey everyone, Sing here. This video was originally going to cover my first Karazhan raid, but since it's been a few weeks at this point, I'm instead going to give my general thoughts about the encounters, preconceptions, first impressions, learning experiences, etc., and how I'm handling them now. I'll have footage from my first venture into Karazhan playing, so you can still see how that all went. With that said, let's get started. All that I really heard about Ataman ahead of time was that he was a loot pinata boss, and, well, that's definitely true. I've yet to experience a single member of the raid dying on this boss. He's free loot, plain and simple. The only thing I've learned in my few weeks of clearing Kara is a better sense of how long the fight lasts so that I can more efficiently utilize my mana as a healer. That's really all there is to say about Ataman. Okay, Moroz is one of the bosses that I heard scary things about ahead of time. Specifically his Garrote ability, which puts a bleed dot on his target. I'd always heard that this was such a powerful ability that it would be worth it for the entire raid to complete a low-level quest to obtain a specific on-use item called Ilhoof that cleanses bleeds. Now, they did make Garrote not cleansable by the Ilhoof, so getting the item isn't useful, but the fact that this was a legitimate strategy back in the day before it was nerfed, and that it was being talked about leading up to TBC definitely had me worried for Moroz. I came to find out that this boss is pretty much a pushover. Maybe we just haven't gotten a difficult combination of the random ads that can spawn with the boss each week, but this truly has been another loot pinata for us. This is another fight that has really just come down to me learning the length of the encounter so I can manage my mana better, but that's about it. I honestly hadn't heard much about Maiden before fighting her for the first time. She's not a very standout boss, so I guess that's probably why. I'd just learned about what she does from Karazhan guides and videos. Her main mechanics are her Consecrate, which ticks for damage on the ground along with a brief silence, and Repentance, which is a longer stun unless you take damage during the stun. What you're supposed to do is move into the Consecrate just before Repentance, so you take damage and remove the stun. But unfortunately, the DBM timer for Repentance has been broken for weeks now, so you can't time it properly. What we've tried to do instead is just have the tank drag the boss over to the healers after Repentance goes out, so that it breaks the stun on the healers. But with the fight being a bit chaotic, this hasn't always worked out so well. She's not a hard boss, just pretty annoying really. Hoping that DBM is fixed soon, and working on a better strat to work around Repentance in the meantime. Okay, so far, my group has only ever seen the Wizard of Oz event. Literally 4 weeks in a row, that's all we've seen. I'm excited to get to experience the other two events in the future, but since I haven't yet, I can't really speak on them right now. As for Oz, it's a pretty easy fight. As long as the bosses are killed in the right order, there's not a lot of damage that goes out. If the tanks know what they're doing, it's free loot. The only thing I'm sad about is that since the bosses are tanked while spread out, Chain Heal isn't as effective as it could be if they were grouped up. Sad shaman things. The Curator is yet another loot pinata boss. He'll occasionally spawn ads that you have to kill before they put out a bunch of damage on the raid, but they die very quickly and it's not even close to being difficult. At around 20% he'll evocate, taking increased damage before enraging afterwards. This is when you want to pop cooldowns and burn him, which is actually pretty easy to do. He dies quickly without much trouble. I might be sounding like a broken record, but Ilhoof is another tank and spank. Kill the imp, focus whoever gets chained, hit the boss some, repeat. Do this a few times and you've killed him. Not much to it. Another boss where I think I've yet to see someone die. There's simply not a lot of damage that goes out during this fight. The next boss, though, is an entirely different story. Shade is without a doubt the most frustrating boss for me in Karazhan. I don't know if it's just me or what, but I just cannot have a clean fight against this guy. I've wiped more on Shade than every other boss in Karazhan combined. It hasn't been that much, and most of it was learning the encounter on our first run through, but still. There's so much RNG in this fight, and by far the worst part of it is Blizzard. First of all, the Blizzard is massive. When it's fully out, it covers more than half of the room, it seems. And as it's ramping up, the hitbox is horrendous. You'll start to get slowed and take damage so far before the actual graphical effect hits you. It's just absurd and I hate it. I feel like I spend more than half of the fight just running out of Blizzard. And since, as a shaman, I don't have any hots, I basically spend more than half the fight not casting anything, which isn't great as a healer. An error I was making on my first few attempts was trying to run around the edge of the room to escape the Blizzard, instead of just running straight through the boss, since I didn't know how fast it moved or how big it got. But even having a better strategy to escape the Blizzard doesn't make this fight much better. Shade is probably a lot better on a priest or druid, since you can just throw out hots while running away. So maybe it's only this awful because I'm playing a shaman. I don't know, man. It's just the bane of my existence right now. Hopefully I'll get better at it. If you guys have any tips for me, please let me know. I'd love to hear them. Oh yeah, and his arcane blast thing where he just sucks everyone into the center and slows you while having to run to the edge of the room, just another mechanic that makes it so I have to be in motion and can't cast. Not fun. Chess is pretty silly. I didn't know exactly how it worked going into it for the first time, and I really wasn't sure what to expect. I knew it couldn't play exactly like real chess does, but I guess I'm not surprised with how the event works. Each player can control one piece at a time, and each piece has different abilities to either inflict damage or heal other pieces. The best strategy is to kill a few of the enemy's non-pawn pieces, and then Zerg the king. It's not hard if everyone sorta knows what they're doing. Prince is one of the more difficult bosses in Karazhan, but with the door strat, he's pretty manageable. Casters can stand at the door and heal/DPS safely from there, while the tank and melee have to be up on the boss. I don't envy the melee having to dance in and out when infernals spawn near them. That just seems very chaotic and confusing. When the boss gets to 60%, he enrages, which is when a majority of the damage goes out. We've been running 3 healers on this fight, and popping cooldowns during the enrage, so it's really not too bad. If you can make it through the enrage to 30%, the fight is pretty much over. His phase 3 is like phase 1, but he spawns some adds that hit the casters. They don't do a lot of damage, so it's not a problem. Overall, as long as it doesn't get too dicey during the enrage, he's a fairly simple boss. Easily the most complicated fight in Karazhan, Netherspite has always given our group a little bit of trouble, but we managed to get him down anyway. The beams can be very confusing if you've never actually experienced the fight, like me before a few weeks ago. This is very much a learn from experience encounter. The green beam is nice to help replenish my mana, but it almost feels necessary with how long the fight takes. And if you forget to dance in time, getting locked out from it can actually make mana very tight. We've yet to have a really clean fight with Netherspite, but we do kill him, usually with a few deaths, on our first attempt each week. Unfortunately, chain heal is pretty useless here unless I very specifically know of a couple people standing close enough to each other, but that doesn't happen that often. I can use it when everyone is grouped up while Netherspite is waiting to Arcane Blast, but that isn't a very long portion of the fight. Finally, there's Nightbane. I haven't actually been in a group who's killed Nightbane yet. My guild runs 3 Kara groups every week, and the groups change a bit each week. So about half of the people have killed Nightbane at this point, while the other half haven't. I'm unfortunately in the half that haven't, but I think we'll be able to get him down this week. Our first time attempting him, he glitched and wouldn't reset, and we didn't know how to soft reset the glitch, so we only got the single attempt that week. Since then, I've probably given the boss another dozen attempts, but we just haven't been able to down him yet. To be fair, he's quite a notoriously difficult boss, and it's been a lot of people learning his mechanics, so I think once we get a solid group where everyone knows what they're doing, myself included, we should be able to get the kill. The largest problem so far has seemed to be the breath he does in air phase that deals a significant amount of damage to a single target. This has to be cleansed immediately to mitigate a lot of damage, and it just hasn't always been. As a healer, I am often the target of this attack, which either outright kills me, in which case the fight is basically over, or forces me to pump a lot of quick heals into whoever it's targeting, quickly wasting a lot of my mana, in which case the fight is basically over if I'm low on mana. The fight really revolves around this one mechanic, so if we can solve that, we'll be just fine. So I cleared 9 out of 10 bosses in Karazhan my first week, which is realistically the most you can do on your first run, since you have to do a separate quest chain after running through Kara once in order to even summon Nightbane, so I'd say we were very successful. One of our Kara teams did kill Nightbane on their second day of the first week, which was the Server 3rd Alliance 10 out of 10 Karazhan. So very cool that they were able to do that. Overall, Karazhan is a very fun raid, rich in atmosphere and lore. I'm looking forward to improving my gameplay going forward, and to eventually raiding Kara on alts. If you guys liked this video, please drop a like and subscribe to help support the channel. While you're at it, comment below and tell me about your TBC Classic Karazhan experiences. That's all for now. Stay tuned for more, and until next time, take care.